All right, recording's in progress. So the first thing I want to do is actually introduce our new instructional designer. Dr. Tim O'Neill comes to us from MTSU with a plethora of amazing experience. So I'm going to let him take the mic for a few minutes and talk about himself and who he is so that y'all can get to know our third instructional designer that we now have. So take it away.
All right. Hey, good morning, everybody. My name's Dr. Tim O'Neill. I am the newest addition to the MTSU online instructional design team. And prior to coming to MTSU, I served for 5 years at Austin Peay State University as a senior instructional designer. And before then, I was at the University of North Dakota and the University of Louisville. And although I have a background in online course design and hybrid course design, I like to specialize in instructional media creation. So lecture videos, explainer videos, instructional videos, anything with games or interactivity in it, I'm really interested in. And if you ever need any assistance with creating materials like that for your courses, please don't hesitate to reach out to me.
Awesome. Yeah, we are very excited that Tim's here. You're actually going to see a little of his work. I'm going to post, hopefully. That is not it. Our newsletter. If you haven't seen our newsletter, I strongly recommend that you check it out. It is there we go. It is awesome. It's got great information, and you can actually see some of Tim's amazing skills there already. And I encourage you to check it out. It's really pretty cool. And actually, some of the things that we are talking about, he created as well on that newsletter instructions. And so there you go. The newsletter is now in the chat. So if you want to go check that out in a little bit and see a little bit of what he could do, but also see instructions for things we're going to talk about that are about a minute rather than watching like a 10-minute video, you can find them on our newsletter. So what I'm going to do is share my screen, if I remember how to do that in Zoom, because it's been a minute since I've used Zoom. All right, there we go. You can see Dr. Sequoia there. All right, so the first thing I actually want to talk about, let me move you off the screen so you don't look at yourself. The first thing that I actually want to talk about are the ways in which D2L has streamlined the experiences for discussion, quiz, and Dropbox. Some of this is going to be familiar because as you have probably seen over the last academic year before we started this one, that there was options to use old experience or use the new experience. And now there's no options. You have to use the new experience. So I thought it would be helpful to go over what they have changed to make it similar and more easy for faculty. So I'm going to start with Dropbox because I think that's the one that changed first and is the easiest. And so,
And Tara, if you wouldn't mind increasing your font just a little bit, that'd be great.
Thank you, will do. Is that any better? Do we need more?
A little bit more would be great.
Okay. My computer is so slow today. Of course it is. Is that better? Okay. And if I need to make it bigger, just yell out to me and let me know. All right, so the Dropbox experience is essentially the same. So I'm not going to spend too much time in here. We do recommend, just as a little ID tidbit, if you're giving feedback, to give audio, video, or written feedback. Given kind of 2 of the 3 is always great, especially if you're an asynchronous online course. It really helps develop that connectivity. The availability dates and conditions are essentially the same. You have your start date, end date, the due dates over here. And then what I wanted to mention more than anything else for this is where you can now manage special access. So you don't have to go to the class participant. You can actually do the manage special access directly in here now for each of these tools, which is great. I cannot show it to you because I have no students, but I promise you that's where it works. Under the submission and completion, we still have the same file types, but we also have text submission, on paper, and observed in person. Text submission is usually if they're just sending you, say they created something and you've asked them for a link and they can just post that link in the comments box. On paper submission is if they're physically going to give you a paper submission. In this day and age, frankly, I just think there's too many cooties out there. So I don't want them to hand me paper. I'd rather them submit it to a Dropbox. But hey, if you want the paper, there's an option to do that in this Dropbox. So you can grade from here and it still connects to that paper submission. And then observed in person. I don't know if a faculty member has used that particular option yet. The ones that I have worked with that have not mentioned it. But I will be actually using that this semester at the end of the semester for their finals. They're actually going to be doing something in person. So I'm going to be using the observed in person option. So that's there. And then as far as file extensions, you can have them do PDFs only. You can have them do annotatable files, images and videos, etc. That's pretty much all the same. But I just wanted you to know that all of that information was there. Again, you can send them that notification email as always. And then also to, of course, you have your evaluation and feedback. I do like that you have this hide students' names during assessment now. I think that's pretty awesome. It helps to keep that experience even more objective. I also like it too, because you start to find themes in students when they're writing, not just themes about what they're writing about, but their style of writing. And then, of course, manage, turn it in. One little side note about manage Turnitin, please do not use Turnitin for checking AI. It is not reliable. It often tells you everything is wrong or everything's okay. And so even Turnitin has said it's not the best for checking AI. They're still working on it. So I just wanted to make a little tidbit about that, just so that you were aware that Turnitin doesn't work well with checking for AI, unfortunately. Any questions about Dropbox? Pretty straightforward.
Yes.
Yes.
The
Yes.
old way used to allow us to change the assessment on the page. Now, I always have to call Jimmy because it's like going on a fishing hunt to
Okay.
find the assessment. Do you know what I'm talking about? Where when we copy from one semester to another, but we're changing up the assignments and we want to attach homework 3 to something different that's not the old one. It's not on this page. As a matter of fact, find it. See if you can find it.
So are you saying, so for example, I want to make sure I'm understanding your question, Gloria. So for example, when you're copying something over, you're saying that it's not copying the file itself that you may have in the Dropbox or attached to it?
No,
So
it is copying over exactly where it's come from, but when you want to make a change, what may have been homework 3 last semester,
okay.
You want to make a change and make something else homework 3.
Okay.
You have to find the assessment. So you have to disconnect that one that's in there
Mm-hmm.
and
You
find,
do.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it's not on the Dropbox page. It's somewhere else. And Jimmy always walks me through it because I can't find it half the time. So
Okay.
where is it?
So I'm going to get out of the Dropbox for just a second. This is one area where you can always add files, whether they're from your computer or from the actual course itself. So if, say, for example, you've made changes on your computer, but you did not upload that file to the course yet, it's just on your computer, you can add it from here and it'll attach it right there. So if I were to go here and say, I want to upload, maybe. If I want to upload, say, something from here, I want to upload a file that looks like, wow, my computer's slow today. So say I wanted to upload this book cover. I would just say open, and now it's added that and add, and that attachment is right there. I realize it's a cover, so it's a picture, but that is where it would attach it.
I'm not talking about uploading. That's easy. I'm talking about the association so that it shows up in the grade book as being connected and associated with homework 3.
I see. Okay, so you're talking about the gradebook itself. Yes, you do have to disconnect from the gradebook. Otherwise, it's still going to save there. So you're right. Like if it's connected to the gradebook and you make a change, it could tell you, hey, this is already connected to the gradebook. So for disconnecting from a gradebook, an item from a gradebook, that's a different process. But we could talk about that process at the end if possible, or you and I, Gloria, can have a call and we can walk through it if you would like. That's not a problem.
Okay, because I mean, it's not just, I don't know that you're understanding what I'm asking. So
I may not be. That's why I think maybe we should have a call, because then we can walk through it together to make sure I'm answering your question correctly.
okay.
Because I do want to be able to answer your question correctly.
I just didn't know if someone else had that question too, in terms of the association. I know how to upload, I know how to delete, but associating to another file, the finding that where to associate used to be right there in the Dropbox. You didn't have to go to the grade book. Now it's not. And
It
you have to-
actually, I got your question. I got your question. It is actually there. What you have to do is where it says ungraded, which is going to come up in a minute, grade out of, where it says ungraded, here's where you tell it to go to the grade book. You either edit or link it to existing, or which you can do, and it's going to say, okay, do you have an existing grade item? If you do, because I don't, it's not highlighted. If you do, you can link it right there to that existing grade item. Is that what you're speaking about?
yes and no, but we'll talk.
Okay. Sounds good, Gloria. We'll talk, I promise.
Okay.
Ted, I have a question here.
Sure.
I want to make sure that I understand exactly which Dropbox we are talking about. In D2L, under assessment, we have discussion and then Dropbox.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Dropbox right here. You're correct.
Okay.
Like,
okay.
so I made a test Dropbox just so I can show it to you, right? This is kind of my playing around sandbox D2L. So I don't have like students and things in here clearly. But yes, that is where I got that from. So when I went and created a new Dropbox specifically for here. Yes.
Okay.
Any
Okay,
other
good.
questions?
I also have a question about, it
Okay.
doesn't seem like in the Dropbox you can edit the rubric that you have attached anymore. Used to, you could just do it right from the Dropbox, and now I can't see any way to do that without going back out to course home and your rubrics list and finding your rubric and editing it. And
so are you saying when you say to attach existing, if you click on it from there, it's not letting you edit there anymore?
right.
Okay, that part I don't know about, but here's the thing. I will write that down and get with D2L and put it on their exchange so that it's something that can be upvoted and fixed, hopefully. Because you're right, it is easier to edit directly in if you need to for whatever reason. So I will put that out there as a what they call pie idea so that it
Okay.
can be voted on.
Thank you.
Anything else?
In the chat, I think Deanna, you also had a question about special access for one student for all Dropboxes. So is there a way through class list to do the special access for all items?
Yes,
know,
there
Tara?
should be. Again, I can't show you because I don't have any students, but yes, there should be a way to do that, accessing through
I've
the
tried
class
that, and
list.
it only had the option to add extra time to quizzes. It didn't have anything for the Dropbox due dates.
Okay, I'll ask about that and look into that as well. Anything else? Okay, so now I'm going to discussions, and I just want to show you that essentially in discussions, it's the same now that it didn't used to be the same. So the availability dates and conditions are here just like before. You can add a release condition, posting completion. This looks a little different. Do you want them to participate at the default, meaning that they see each other's responses, even if they don't post first, etc.? Do you want to allow learners to hide their name from other learners? This is one of my favorite new features because it doesn't hide it from you as the instructor. It only hides it from the learners. And when you're talking about topics that can be potentially touchy, I think it's a really great idea to do that so you could kind of help moderate behind the scenes of who's doing what. And so I think it's a fantastic option since it still allows you to see the learners. Of course, learners must start a thread before they can view and reply. And then, of course, posts must be approved if you're a faculty member who wants to approve posts before they're put out there. Those are the different options there now. Again, the one that's newest is this allow learners to hide their name. And then this is where you would add the rubric, excuse me. This is also where you can allow learners to rate posts by doing up votes, up and down votes, and 5-star ratings. If you are trying to incorporate a different style of discussion, maybe you have students doing a presentation on a discussion board and you want students to vote or give a 5-star rating and then justify why they gave that and ask additional questions. That's a great way to engage students a little bit differently in the discussion board. I'm not a huge fan of the up vote, down vote. Down, that can hurt your heart a little bit. I usually recommend that more for graduate level because you're a little bit more ready for someone to be like, that wasn't great. But that it's there for you to use within discussions, and it's a great thing, I think. And then the other thing that's really changed in discussions is this is where you now change your forum or select the forum that you want it to be associated with. If you do not change it to one that's potentially existing, it's going to create a new forum every single time you create a topic, and it's going to name it the name of that topic. So as we recommend, if you have discussions that all have the same instructions for how to engage, we recommend only creating that one forum and attaching each topic to it. So this is where you would choose an existing forum if you had already made one. Again, I threw this together this morning, so it says workshop discussion because that's what I named the title of the topic. So it created a forum for that. If I wanted to create a forum, I think many of you know we have discussion guidelines. This is where you would change it to discussion guidelines if that is what was applicable. I wanted to mention, yes.
If you don't mind, I'm so sorry for interrupting. Previously, I should have interrupted you before. When you were discussing the post and completion for the discussions, the default participation allow learners to hide their names, and learners must start thread before they can view reply to others. The two aforementioned allow learners to hide their names, and learners must start. So these are all in the radial buttons. So it means I cannot make them simultaneous.
Right. It does not allow you to pick multiple things. Again, if that's something that you would like me to recommend to D2L as a Pi Exchange idea, let me know and I'll do that.
Yes, ma'am, because actually you can do, you can do the check mark for post must be approved before. So what you can do, you can actually move this, allow learners to hide their names from other learners, also to make it as a check mark underneath.
Okay, I will put that in.
Actually, all of them could be on them. No, but that's, yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else about discussion area?
We do have a question about what is the best way to create groups in discussion?
So my recommendation is that you actually use the groups tool to create the groups first and then create the discussions associated with the group, because it will allow you to set up, if you go to groups under communication, it's going to ask you to create a new category, and then it's going to, once it creates the category, and I'm going to try to do this real fast. It's going to ask you all the questions. Do you, no auto enrollments, meaning you don't want the students to be auto enrolled, groups of number, meaning how many groups do you want, or number of groups, groups of number. What is the maximum number of participants you want in a group? Number of groups is the number of groups you create for your class. You can do self-enrollment, et cetera, et cetera. But down here, if you set up the group first, it's going to say set up discussion areas, and you can click that box and it's going to set them up for you so that they will already be done by group, and you can differentiate. Say, for example, if everyone has the same topic, but you don't want everybody to see everybody else's answers, then you would just say attach to an existing topic. That way they see the topic, everybody sees the same topic, but they can only see the responses of their group. From my perspective, that is the fastest way to do that. I know Karen has put a cheat sheet in our chat as well to help out with that. So hopefully that answers your question.
Actually, no, it doesn't, Tara. Okay.
Okay. What's
So
up?
You know
Ann,
that
tell
I
me.
have bazillions of classes, that I copy over from shells. So
Yes.
it's not possible if I'm copying the same class into different shells, I can't create the groups before I create the discussions. The discussions are already made in my shell and I'm copying it all over.
Okay.
So Kim had told me when I was trying to figure out the easiest way to do it, that she was saying what you were saying, and then she had a trick to make it work better if you had to do it the opposite way, which is what I generally have to do, but I can't remember what Kim's trick was. I mean, to me, it shouldn't make a difference.
Right.
Split them, it's just, some more clicks. But is there a back end reason that I should not do it that way? To, just go in and split them up into groups and assign it to my topics?
Not to my knowledge of
Okay.
back end stuff for D2L. I'm not going to say that my knowledge is deep on the back end, but not to my knowledge. I'm going to be honest about it, right? I'm not going
All right.
to fluff it
'Cause
up.
I haven't set up my groups yet in my current classes because I was like, okay, how did Kim tell me to do it? And I can't remember. And she's so busy right now. I'm gonna leave her alone. So
Well, true tale, right? Because she's over there, but we're still here, Ann. So give us a call and we can walk through it. That's not a problem.
yeah, because I think it'll be fine. But if it doesn't work out,
Please give us a call.
I'll give you a call. I already screwed up my shells once, so I'm trying not to do it again. Yeah, I already had to reset them once for me. So.
I feel you on that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, so we're moving on to quizzes. Again, it's all about the same experience, being in the same places. So what's really different about quizzes, first off, when you create questions, they are now going to show up down here and you're going to see them and you can edit them directly from there. You can move them around. If I had multiple questions, you can move them around there. So you can do a lot of things more easily that you couldn't do specific to questions. If you have, for example, you want to move it to a different section because you created a section, or you want to delete it, or you want to toggle it as mandatory, like the student has to answer that question or they can't move forward. Set points. Maybe you want to set varying point values. When you have multiple questions, you can do it here a lot more easily than before. The availability dates and conditions, again, are the same. That manage special access is also right here. So you can click on this and select the students within your class list who need that. This is the password information if you do use a password. So all of that same information is there. The timing and display is also here. Set your time limit. What do you want your timer settings to be? Do you want it to automatically submit when the time's done, exceed and flag, or not really enforce it and let the student keep going? Really think about if you're using the quiz tool, the paging about all questions displayed together. That is the default, but that is not a best practice. A best practice is to have 5 or fewer questions on one sheet, of a test, one page of a test, 5 or less questions in order to help mitigate cheating. And so I always change this particular option. You can shuffle like you always did, hints, etc. Manage your header and footer if you want there to be a header and footer on your quiz. Attempts and completion, basically the same. How many attempts do you want it to allow the student? And then evaluation feedback, so where it's a little bit different, of course, auto-publish, synchronized to the gradebook, etc. And then this is where, do you want to send their attempt grade and then give them information about that attempt? Do you want to send them incorrect questions only with correct answers, etc.? I'm not going to read to you. Y'all are educated and can read. But this is where you can put those particular options. This is also where you can set up your submission view now. Your submission view used to be something called submission view. Now it's customized quiz results displays. So if you want to edit what students can see and when, this is where you do that now instead of submission views. And you would tell it the message, And then what do you want them to see? The incorrect questions with their answers, correct questions with their answers, all questions, etc. So that is where you would put that down. That's the biggest change within quizzes, aside from how quizzes are seen or questions are seen, excuse me. And then you still can press the preview button right here, and it's going to take you to let you preview your quiz. Of course, I only have the one question, and I'm going to answer true because it makes me feel good about myself. So I'm saying, yeah, it's amazing. And submit, and you've already previewed your quiz, and you can go back to your questions directly from there. Let's get, I don't want to submit quiz. Let's go. And now my attempt is there, and I can exit the preview or hit done. Either one works. So that's really what I wanted to cover with quizzes. Any questions about that? You can still do things like randomize your questions, randomize your answers, etc. You can still do all of those things. None of that has changed.
Can you walk us through how you would say if you import a question pool that has 60 questions and you only
Yes.
want it to do 45 of the 60? Can you walk us through how to accomplish that? Because that's changed and I haven't been able to figure that one out.
I'll do the best of my ability because I only have one question, but I will show you where it is. Under create new, they now have question pool. So I can't browse from anything because I don't have anything to browse, but this is where you would find question pool. And that is where you can tell it if you're pulling from a question library. It may not give me that option because I have no question library, but you title the question pool and then number of questions to select. So how many questions do you want it to pull? And then if you have them in your library, you browse your question library so it knows which items that it's selecting from. Is that helpful?
Yes, that's it. I was hitting the
Okay.
other button to the left, like
Right,
upload
'cause
questions.
Right, it makes sense because you have your questions already in question library.
Right. Yeah, I didn't think
Yeah,
I needed to create new, but okay, that's
but
where I
that
need
is
to
where it
go.
is. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. You're welcome.
Can you say the difference between the due date and the end date?
Yes. The due date is when you technically want it to be due. So say you want it due on Tuesday at 11:59. The end date is when the students can no longer access the quiz. So even though it's due, a student can still access it and it's going to say, oh, this student took this 2 days late. It's going to tell you in red. But if it's got an end date, they can't access it at all.
Okay, so end date makes it not accessible anymore.
Correct. Yes.
So I'm better off because I mean I want them to meet the due date, obviously, but I'm better off to have a due date and then make the end date maybe later or not there, so that if I'm accepting late papers or late quizzes, then I don't have to go up. I don't have to open the Dropbox for each individual student, basically,
Correct.
right?
Yeah, if you leave that end date a little bit more open-ended, correct, you shouldn't have to do that. It's just going to tell you, hey, this person submitted 3 days late.
Okay, and then when they see the calendar on their D2L, they will only see the due date, though. They won't see the end date, correct?
The only way they would see the end date is if you check the little box that comes up when you fill these out that says add to calendar.
Okay.
If you don't add it to calendar, they won't see it. And if you can just put a start date. You don't have to put an end date at all. It will let you do that.
Okay, but as long as I have a due date, then they think they have to adhere to the due date. It enables me to allow a late paper or late quiz without having to change it for each student. Okay, that's what I needed.
Yes.
Thank you.
And you can do that in quizzes or Dropbox, either one.
Right. Okay, thank you.
It's been my experience that students will drop in anytime they can drop in. So they don't, if they see due date, they still try to drop it in. They will drop it in. You won't get a notice and it'll be there late and you haven't had a conversation with them. And then you have to fix it after that fact. So just heads up. I do the end date and I take it seriously and I post it in the calendar. And then if they actually need to have it, then I change it for them. Otherwise, I end up, once one student finds out that the due date is not real, nobody's going to honor it. And that's just been my experience. And I've been using this like 10 years. So I consider myself fairly experienced on that end of things. Just a heads up.
It really is. I agree. It really is comes down to your own philosophy and pedagogical decisions about your course and how due dates and end dates you think apply to whatever it is that you're teaching in your own style and philosophy. Some people don't use end dates. Some people don't use start dates. Some people don't use, due dates, and some people use all the dates. So it really just
Tara,
is up to you. Yes.
I had a lot of kind of issues with that. Can you please take it, a week late, or my grandma died, or this happened, or that happened. So the way I used it is I put in the syllabus right at the beginning. You have a 24-hour, opportunity for a late submission. And so I use the due date as the due date, and then I give them 24 hours to the end date. And then I'm like, and then I don't want to hear about it. If you don't have, if something happens and you've previously told me, that's fine. But that way, if somebody has something come up, they've got 24 hours and they lose a letter grade. And that's the end.
Another great style to approach too. Like I said, since everyone does it a little differently, I appreciate you sharing that. Any other questions? And we're here to support you. Please don't think that you can't call us individually and say, hey, I need some help. That is why we're here. We believe in that customer service. We believe in helping our faculty be able to be empowered to do the best that you want to do and can do for your students, because we know that's what you want to do anyway. So anytime we can assist in that effort, give us a call, please.
Hey, Tara, I have another question regarding the bookings. So when you set up that bookings with that link, does that automatically make a Zoom meeting for that student, or do you still need to schedule like a Zoom in your D2L for that?
Well, yes, you can say and schedule a Zoom meeting and put that Zoom link in the bookings, but it's automatically going to create a Teams meeting. Because remember, Zoom is going to go away at some point. So we are
where will
trying
that
to
be in the class shell? Because now we have the Zoom at the top of the, like I'm seeing right now in Karen's, like
it won't automatically come in. You would actually copy that link of the bookings that you created. It creates a descriptive hyperlink for you. So when it said Tara's bookings, it created that for me. I did not type that. So once you click that link, you put that link into your class itself. It's not going to show up like in a nav bar or anything like that.
And so when I go to have that meeting, how do I get to it?
Your Outlook calendar.
Okay, so you're going to do it from Outlook, not from the D2L shell like we do with the Zoom?
Yes, it goes through your Outlook.
Okay. And so will the students need to be logged into D2L to be able to get to it?
No, they can,
as
long as they're logged in through their single sign-on, they can access it through their Outlook calendar. They can access it through the course, either one.
Okay.
They just have to be logged in with their single sign-on, which we want students to be doing anyway.
You can put the link to bookings almost anywhere. And that link, and so the link is just really a matter of wherever you put it, students would access. And then when the email comes through, it provides them, they also get a copy of the email to give them the link that says you can join the meeting using that link.
Okay. I'll test it. Thank you.
Well, and feel free to give me a call too, anytime. I'm here for you.
Tara, did you say that the little cheat sheet is in the newsletter or on the website?
The cheat sheet for OneDrive and for Panopto videos is in the newsletter.
The newsletter, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you go to the online faculty resources page, it'll say Fall Newsletter 23 or something like that you can click on.
Just to point all that out.
There's a little Read Our Fall Newsletter right there. And if you click on it, you're going to see that we have information, of course, about our new staff and all of that. But then there's some really cool GIFs that Tim made where you can just click on them, and talks about Panopto changes. And I think that one's about a minute. And this one's maybe 30 seconds. And it tells you what to do to save on OneDrive so you can caption your videos super easy without having to use YouTube or Panopto or Zoom or anything else. I hope that's helpful, Gloria.
And to go back to the question about accommodations, when you go into your class list for your course. If you've got your student account, there should be an edit accommodations option. And this is where, as Deanne was talking about, right now, quizzes is the only item that I have that has a time limit on it. And so when you're thinking about drop boxes, those are due dates. And so we would need to investigate further how to set different due dates for drop boxes. So apparently at this time, it's only about specific timing when it comes to minutes or number of tries, if I'm understanding this correctly.
That's how I understand it as well. Like they said earlier, you can easily do all quizzes at one time, but they don't have that option for drop boxes yet.
It's not the times of how many times you take, but like 1.5 times, 2 times, 3 times of allotted time. It's not
right.
how many attempts.
Right.
So right there with the extra time where it says minutes is where you would add extra time for each quiz. Is that more helpful?
And Lisa Swart had a question about creating a file in D2L to upload lecture notes for for a student who needs accommodation that only that student can access. I don't know. Ideas would be maybe a group area for one.
Yeah, a group area for one. But I don't know that you can do that specific within D2L for just one person for that kind of information. To my knowledge, you can't, like you said, other than you set up a group area for one and put all of that information in that one spot. Almost like a group discussion even, and with one person.
Right.
And just put everything in there. Since we are past time, we're going to stay, but I am going to stop recording.